We met with Firefly in the underground, who informed us that she had given our son the needed medicine, as well as she had set herself up in the underground, gathering glass supplies and such from around the city, with Abel's help. She liked the quiet for working on her potions, as the herds people called them, and she was trying to get on track to having what would be needed for any problems in birthing. For she had noticed a few herdswomen greatly with child as well. She had already checked on T, who she also placed in the underground in one of the many rooms where she keep an eye on her. Sam had done a fine job getting her back to the herd in fine condition, and no worse for wear. Abel had set her up in the underground next to Firefly because of instructions Abira had given him to keep her away from the lion's reach, Abel knowing the capabilities of the lions already had been attentive to T's needs as much as possible until we arrived, and even after, Lavender was busy with her children, but she went to visit T now and again. Colt looked to Firefly. "Shall we sit and talk a moment, Firefly?" Firefly smiled and nodded, but she seemed serious somehow, more so than usual, as she began to speak. Before Colt could come forward with his own questions, Firefly started in the deepest explanation she could, to both of us, of Colt's nanos. Colt's mother was in extreme pain with hers, because she was harming the other half of her nanos each time she harmed Colt in one of her rages, and the nanos were self-preserving. One reason they were so hard to control as well as destroy. Even with the upgrade they had been given, they would be very difficult to fully rid them from the body, but she said with time they would dissipate, leaving behind only the upgrade, which was something different entirely. A form of phagocytes. Colt and I didn't know what the word was, but Firefly explained once the nanos were gone, these would stay behind, and if any new forms of nanos were injected, they would surround them, breaking them down to keep themselves thriving. And Colt and our children may change in some ways, for instance. Our son had Colt's color skin, and both children had his color hair. There could be a chance their hair color would change and skin color lighten. I looked to Colt. I couldn't imagine him with any other color hair, but would it be blonde like his father's or a more natural black like his mother's? And our children, would they have possibly red hair like mine? I asked all this of Firefly, who smiled. I cannot tell you for certain. It may take years to fully show itself, especially Colt being he had had them the longest, but for now we should use the nanos while we could to see if we could use them to find out the location of Colt's mother's nanos. Colt looked to Firefly. My mother will continue to manipulate if she lives, but I cannot keep after her the entirety of my life. I have the herd to attend to, and I did promise her no harm by my hand, and you know how I keep my words. Firefly looked down. You are right, of course, but I'd like to keep an eye on her as long as possible, and you are like a better signal when attached to mine. Colt looked to me. What do you think, love? I looked to them both. I think you should. Learn to use them so they can't be used against you. If Firefly can use it to find your mother, that's just added reason. Because though I know little about it all, if Firefly can find her, then your mother can find us. You both saved Lyra and may be able to save others with it. While it can be useful, then with the new ones we can go take out every Harlts, since that is what the herd is training for as we speak. Colt smiled slightly. Well put, love, but there is more, Firefly, I must ask you. Colt wasn't waiting for permission as he drew slightly closer to Firefly. As they sat, Firefly. I know there is something you are keeping from me about the death of Ite. What is it? Firefly's face was calm and unsurprised as she seemed to know what Colt would ask before it left his lips. That is very much the truth, Colt. But lately there has been a fluctuation on newcomers and more of them with second color, some even a third. My mind is never far from what could be the truth, but in what happened I am worried I am correct in my assumptions of it all. But at the same time, nothing about the situation can be changed at the moment, so I want to test your skills in seeing if you can find it out from me during training. Once you can find the answer, then I may leave to my home, knowing you are ready for what it all may bring in the future. I looked to Colt, who seemed satisfied with Firefly's answer. He just let out a sigh through his nose, then nodded. Colt, with me by his side, came up with the afternoon hours when the herd was less in need of him to try out his abilities. After a great talk that seemed to take quiet a while, Colt looked to Firefly. Again, there is one more thing in our talks I have not spoken to you about, but am sure you know of it. Abel is my brother by my mother's blood. Shouldn't he also have the nanos as well as his children? Firefly touched her head a moment, as though she was checking for a fever before speaking. I know little of Abel. Yes, I did hear of him being your brother from listening in, but in the way of hearing him there is nothing. My best guesses to this is one of three things. One is the most possible, is your mother is very much filled with greed. She learned to control the nanos after you were born, at least enough to manipulate where With went. That woman never felt love, so I doubt she would give up any power willingly to another child. Two is for what Abel is. He is quiet, large, and perhaps he was given so little that it hasn't had time to build up in him. But why? I don't think this the case, or you would be seeing signs of it by now, as would I. But if it would be the case, it would be the only thing that saved his body from death, for he never had any of my cider to keep them, and I would need to start him on it soon as possible. Under control. And the third, perhaps he doesn't have the same blood and his body is constantly rejecting them, but eventually they will overpower him and kill him at a rather young age as well as his children. If that would be the case, but I pray it isn't. Colt looked to her. Is there a way to find out? Firefly let out a sigh. The reason the good doctor could never find them in your children is they know how to hide and evade needles, but there is a way. You would have to find him in thought if you can connect to him. That would mean the worst outcome for Abel. I looked to her, but couldn't you just give him some of the stuff you gave our daughter and son? Firefly shook her head slowly. I am afraid the coating is not made for one of a different blood type. It wouldn't hurt him, but it wouldn't help him either. If anything, it may slow them down, but it would be so slight it would be of no use. I could try to make a new batch that could handle them, but it would take many years that Abel would not have that type of time. Colt looked to her. Well, this has revealed much I would like to ask of you to start looking into it. I do not believe we can put time for life based on facts. Firefly nodded in agreement. I have seen such unexplainable things with life, so I shall start on it, but I make no promises it can even be accomplished. Let us pray he will not need of them. Colt nodded in agreement. We checked on T, who was in bed with many foods by her bedside. She was now dressed in a cotton dress, something that many of the herdswomen would wear while with child. Colt and I stood looking to her. How are you settling in, T? Colt asked. His words were kind, but I could tell there was a coldness underneath it. She looked to us. She seemed more calm here. I've been well taken care of here. I wanted to thank you both again for taking me in. Colt looked to her. Well, let there be no misunderstanding. Between I allowed for you to come here to have your child away from the obligations of the deer herd. Under normal circumstances, it would not be allowed. So you were given a great blessing by your colors. I will watch you, as will the herd, to see if you are worth keeping. Here, I don't expect work of you, now, being the state of things, but once the child is born and you become stronger, you shall have duties. No one stays without showing their worth to the herd. You may stay if you do your part and eventually be accepted as one of the herd, but till then you are a guest only. I understand. What if I am not able to do what's expected of me? Colt crossed his arms. We will take that step if it comes to it. We will not leave you to the wilderness with a child, nor take a child from. You be assured of this, but your options will be few. Thank you, Colt, and you to Vida. I looked to her. I just realized what Colt had suspected. How could I have not caught it before? But I couldn't let it show. Whatever I did, I couldn't let it show that I knew her truths.